The man who checked into the presidential suite of the Aurelia Grand, New York, wasn't just a guest. He was, in his mind, the king. He swept through the lobby on a wave of unearned arrogance, his arm draped around a woman who was decidedly not his wife. He demanded the best of everything: the 1998 Dom Perignon on ice, the reservations at Le Ciel, the undivided attention of the staff. He used his wife's name like a platinum key, unaware that every smile he received, every door that opened, was reporting directly back to the woman who didn't just have the key, she owned the entire building. Wesley Ford felt the cool, polished marble of the Aurelia Grand flagship under his Italian leather shoes and sighed in satisfaction. This, he felt, was his proper environment. The lobby was a symphony of quiet wealth, a 3-story atrium, a cascading crystal chandelier that looked like a frozen waterfall, and the subtle scent of white tea and peonies pumped through the vents. "Isn't it breathtaking, baby?" he murmured to the woman beside him. Bethany Reed, 26 and poured into a crimson dress, looked around with wide, appraising eyes. "It's nice, Wesley. But you said the one in Paris has a better view of the tower." Wesley chuckled, a low, patronizing sound. "Patience, my dear. We'll get to Paris. But for our anniversary—" He paused, letting the lie settle. "I wanted the best suite in New York, the Aurelia Grand Presidential. Nothing but the best for you." "Our 6-month anniversary," she corrected, tapping her long acrylic nails on her phone. "And I hope it's better than that place in Miami." The thread count felt cheap. Wesley's smile tightened. Bethany was expensive, but she was also, in his opinion, a necessary expense. A trophy for a man of his stature. A man married to a woman who cared more about spreadsheets than sleeping in. They approached the private check-in desk, reserved for VIPs and high-tier loyalty members. The concierge, a young woman named Sarah, smiled warmly. "Welcome to the Aurelia Grand, sir, ma'am. May I have the name on the reservation?" "Ford," Wesley said, puffing his chest slightly. "Wesley Ford. You'll find I have a standing preference here." Sarah's fingers flew across the keyboard. Her professional smile didn't waver, but her eyes flickered for a fraction of a second. The Ford account. That was Mrs. Julietta Ford, the founder, the CEO, the woman who owned all 88 properties worldwide. The reservation was indeed under Wesley Ford, using the Founder's Circle account, which guaranteed any request, any time. But the internal note on the file was clear. Primary guest, Julietta Ford. Accompanying. Guest, Wesley Ford. Spouse. Sarah had been trained for this. "Of course, Mr. Ford. We have you in the presidential suite, 5 to 001. We've taken the liberty of stocking the bar with your preferred Macallan 25. See?" Wesley whispered to Bethany. "They know me." As a bellman collected their luggage, a matching set of Louis Vuitton trunks, the general manager, Mr. Howell, emerged from his office. He was a man in his late 50s, impeccably dressed, with a demeanor that was both welcoming and fortress-like. He had been with Julietta since she opened her first property 20 years ago. "Mr. Ford," Howell said, extending a hand. His smile was perfectly polite, but his eyes were steel. "A pleasure to welcome you back. We weren't expecting you. We had Mrs. Ford's itinerary marked for London until the weekend." Wesley waved a dismissive hand. "Last-minute change of plans, Howell. You know how it is. Business in the city. Just need a place to unwind." He gestured to Bethany. "This is my associate, Ms. Reed. She'll be joining me." Mr. Howell's gaze rested on Bethany for precisely 1 second. It was enough time to log her face, her dress, her demeanor. "Ms. Reed," he said, with a slight, formal bow. "Welcome. Of course, the suite is ready. We trust everything will be to your satisfaction." "It better be," Bethany muttered. "Please allow me to escort you up," Howell offered, his professionalism a flawless shield. As they walked toward the private elevator, Wesley felt a surge of power. He loved this, the deference, the luxury. He felt he deserved it. He was the one who had to endure the endless, boring dinners, the robotic conversations about profit margins and emerging markets. Giulietta was the brains, sure, but he was the face. He was the one who made her life bearable. This was just his bonus. Meanwhile, 7,000 kilometers away in a London boardroom, Giulietta Ford was methodically dismantling a team of hostile investors. "And so," she concluded, her voice calm and even, "your leveraged buyout attempt is not only ill-conceived, it's based on flawed data. The Hong Kong market isn't shrinking. Your share is. Aurelia Grand, however, has seen a 14% growth quarter over quarter. The board rejects your offer. Unanimously." She closed her binder. The room was silent. Giulietta was a handsome woman in her late 40s, not beautiful in the classical sense, but radiating an intensity and intelligence that was magnetic. She wore a simple, severe navy blue suit, her dark hair pulled back in a tight chignon. She looked more like a surgeon than a hotel magnate. Her assistant, Nina, a sharp-eyed woman in her 30s, handed her a tablet. "Flight is confirmed for 8 p.m. tomorrow, Giulietta. Wheels up to JFK." "Good," Giulietta said, standing. The investors scrambled to their feet. "Thank you for your time, gentlemen. I suggest you re-evaluate your positions." She walked out, Nina in her wake. Once in the armored car, Giulietta let out a long breath and loosened her hair. The severe CEO softened, just a little. "God, I'm tired," she said, rubbing her temples. "And I miss Wesley. Did you get him that case of wine he wanted?" "The 82 Petrus? Yes, it was delivered to the house yesterday," Nina confirmed. "Good. He's been working so hard on that new fund. I feel like I haven't seen him in weeks." She picked up her phone. "I'll call him. It's, 3 p.m. in New York. He should be between meetings." She dialed. It rang 4 times, then went to voicemail. "Hi, darling. It's me. Just wrapping up in London. It was a bloodbath, but we won. Of course. I'll be home Saturday morning. I can't wait to see you. I love you." She hung up, a small, sad smile on her face. She loved her husband. He was her anchor, her one soft place to land in a life of hard edges. Back in Suite 5401, Wesley's phone buzzed on the marble nightstand. He saw My Giulietta flash on the screen. He silenced it with a guilty jolt. "Who's that?" Bethany asked, emerging from the cavernous gold-leafed bathroom, wrapping a plush Aurelia Grand robe around her body. "Nobody," Wesley said, tossing the phone onto a chair. "Just work. Now, where were we?" He pulled her close, gesturing to the floor-to-ceiling windows that overlooked Central Park. "Look at that, baby. I own this city. We own this city." Mr. Howell stood in his pristine, glass-walled office just off the main lobby, long after Wesley and Bethany had disappeared into the elevator. His posture was rigid. He had worked for Giulietta Ford for 22 years. He'd been the front desk manager at her very first hotel in upstate New York, a struggling boutique property she'd inherited and rebuilt with her bare hands. He remembered her, at 25, fixing a leaking pipe in the basement herself because they couldn't afford a plumber. He owed his entire career to her. Her loyalty to her core staff was legendary. In return, their loyalty to her was absolute. The Aurelia Grand hotel chain wasn't just a business to Giulietta. It was her life, her family. And Mr. Howell, like many of the senior staff, felt a deep, almost paternal obligation to protect it. And to protect her. He had seen Mr. Ford with associates before. Usually it was a discreet lunch at the restaurant, a quick meeting in the bar. Howell had always maintained a professional distance. A spouse's private life was not his concern. But this was different. Checking into the presidential suite, her suite, the one she personally designed, under her name, with a woman who was clearly not a business associate. It was a violation. It was a grotesque disrespect, not just to his boss, but to the brand itself. He picked up his desk phone, which had a direct, secure line to Giulietta's executive assistant. He bypassed all switchboards. Nina's voice was crisp on the other end. "Nina Romano." "Ms. Romano, it's Martin Howell at the New York flagship." Nina's tone warmed instantly. She knew and respected all of Giulietta's original team. "Martin, a pleasure. Is everything all right? I know Giulietta is expecting to be there Saturday." "That is why I am calling," Howell said, choosing his words with surgical care. "We have a guest who just checked in. I felt it was my duty to confirm the itinerary, as there seems to be a discrepancy." "Oh, who checked in?" "Mr. Wesley Ford," Howell said. There was a beat of silence. "Wesley? He's there? He's not supposed to be. He told Giulietta he was in client meetings, in Connecticut. He has checked in, Ms. Romano. He arrived approximately 20 minutes ago. He is in suite 5401. The presidential suite," Nina said, her voice dropping a full octave, losing all its warmth. "I see. And is he alone?" "No, Ms. Romano. He is accompanied by a female. She is registered at the desk as Ms. Bethany Reed. They are here for, in his words, a few days." The silence on the other end of the line was heavy. Nina was processing. She wasn't just an assistant. She was Giulietta's gatekeeper, her memory, and her most trusted confidant. "Martin," Nina said, her voice now dangerously quiet, "I need you to do two things for me. First, this conversation never happened. Your duty is to the guest, and Mr. Ford is a guest. He is to be treated with the standard Aurelia grand courtesy. Do not, under any circumstances, let your service falter. Understood?" "Of course," Howell said. He had expected this. Professionalism above all. "Second," Nina continued, "I need a copy of the check-in security footage from the private desk, timestamps from the elevator, and the name on the credit card used for incidentals." "He didn't provide one," Howell said, anticipating her. "He charged all incidentals directly to the primary account, to Mrs. Ford's Founders Circle master bill." Nina's sharp intake of breath was the only sound of emotion she allowed. The audacity. He was making his wife pay for his affair. "Send me the footage, Martin. Secure server. And thank you. You did the right thing." "For Mrs. Ford," Howell said simply, and hung up. In London, Nina stared at her screen. She felt a cold, white-hot rage building in her chest. She had never liked Wesley. She found him shallow, weak, and completely unworthy of a woman like Giulietta. But she had kept her thoughts to herself, because Giulietta loved him. Now he had crossed a line. He had brought his filth into her house. Giulietta was currently in a celebratory dinner with the partners who had helped her win the negotiation. She was relaxed, smiling, and for a few hours, just a woman enjoying a meal. Nina refused to destroy that. This news could wait until morning, but Nina would not wait. She pulled up the secure server. The footage from New York arrived. She clicked play. She watched Wesley, smug and proud, his arm around the younger woman. She watched him name drop. She watched him sign the bill, charging it to Giulietta. Then, Nina began to dig. She was Giulietta's proxy in all things, which included full access to all joint financial accounts. She opened the Founders Circle Amex. She saw the charges from the past 6 months. Miami, AW Hotel, 15,000. Paris, a Four Seasons, 22,000. An online jeweler, Boudoir Gems, $18,000. And then transfers, large 5-figure transfers from the joint household account, the one Giulietta kept topped up for property taxes and staff salaries, into a private account under Wesley's name only. This wasn't just an affair. This was theft. Nina stared at the numbers, her blood running cold. She looked at the clock. 11 p.m. in London. Giulietta would be back at her hotel soon. This couldn't wait until morning, after all. Back in New York, Wesley and Bethany were living in grotesque luxury. They had polished off the champagne. Bethany was taking selfies in the grand, free-standing marble tub, filled with bubbles. "Wesley," she called out, "this is amazing, but when are you going to do it?" Wesley was standing on the terrace, overlooking the park, feeling like a master of the universe. "Do what, my love?" "Leave her," Bethany said, her voice suddenly sharp. "You keep saying soon, soon. You keep taking me on these trips, but we're still hiding. I'm tired of hiding. I want this," she gestured around the suite, "to be mine. Ours. When are you going to leave, Giulietta?" Wesley's good mood evaporated. This was the part he hated. The feelings part. "Bethany, we've talked about this. It's complicated. The finances, the assets. It takes time to untangle things." "How much time?" she pouted, stepping out of the tub and wrapping the robe around herself. "It's been 6 months. I thought you said she was just a business partner, a cold fish. You said you didn't even love her." "I don't," he said, too quickly. "I don't. I love you. She's complicated. But I'm handling it. This trip, this is a sign that I'm serious, isn't it? I'm taking you to her hotel. I'm not afraid." "Then prove it," Bethany challenged, moving close to him. "Call her. Call her right now and tell her it's over." Wesley's blood ran cold. "What? Now? It's the middle of the night in London. I can't." "Why not?" She pushed. "If you're done, you're done. Or are you just a coward?" "I am not a coward," he seethed. He was stung. He grabbed his phone from the chair, his false courage fueled by champagne. He saw the missed call from my Giulietta. "Fine," he said, his jaw set. "Fine. You want me to prove it? I'll prove it." He didn't call. He was too cowardly for that. Instead, he opened a text message. His fingers hovered, shaking slightly. He typed, "Giulietta, we need to talk when you get back. I'm not happy. I think I want a divorce." He stared at it. It was weak, but it was a start. It would break the ice. Bethany watched him, a cruel, satisfied smile on her face. "Send it." He hit send. A moment later, his phone buzzed. A reply. He opened it, confused. It wasn't from Giulietta. It was an automated message from his carrier. Message failed. The recipient's phone is currently turned off. She must be on the plane already," he lied, slipping the phone back into his pocket. "It didn't go through. I'll tell her. I'll tell her when she lands." "You better," Bethany said, her voice a low threat. "Because I'm done being a secret. Now, order me some more of that champagne. The good stuff." Wesley nodded, feeling a sudden, sharp headache. He called room service, his voice overly loud, full of false bravado. "Yes, this is Wesley Ford in the presidential suite. Send up another bottle of the 98 Dom, and a dozen oysters. Charge it to the room." He felt like a king. He had no idea he was just a jester in his wife's court. Giulietta returned to her suite at the Aurelia Grand London, a mirror image of the New York property, but overlooking Hyde Park, feeling the deep, bone-weary exhaustion that only comes after a high-stakes victory. She unpinned her hair, letting it fall, and messaged her neck. All she wanted was a hot bath and to dream of being home with Wesley. Nina was waiting for her in the suite's private study, her face pale and set. "Nina? What is it? You look like you've seen a ghost. Did something happen with the deal?" "The deal is fine, Giulietta," Nina said, her voice uncharacteristically gentle. "Please sit down." Giulietta's stomach fluttered with anxiety. Nina was never gentle. "What's wrong? Is it my mother?" "Your mother is fine. This is about Wesley." Giulietta sat, her posture immediately straightening. "What about him? Is he all right? Was there an accident?" "No," Nina said. She placed her tablet on the desk between them. "He's fine. He's in New York." "New York? That's impossible. He's in Connecticut. He has that client retreat." Giulietta trailed off as Nina's words sank in. "He's in New York." "He's at the flagship, Giulietta," Nina said softly. At the hotel? Why?" A smile touched her face. Is he surprising me? Is he flying to London?" "No." Nina took a deep breath and turned the tablet around. She pressed play. Giulietta watched the silent, high-definition security footage. She saw her husband, Wesley, his face beaming, his arm possessively around a young, beautiful woman. She watched him lean in and kiss the woman's temple. She watched him sign the check-in slip with a flourish. The room went utterly silent. The only sound was the distant traffic on Park Lane. Giulietta did not cry. She did not gasp. Her face, which had been soft with exhaustion, slowly hardened, the muscles in her jaw tightening until she looked like she was carved from marble. She watched the 30-second loop 3 times. "Who is she?" Giulietta asked, her voice flat, devoid of all emotion. "Her name is Bethany Reed, 26, aspiring lifestyle influencer, according to her social media, which," Nina added, swiping to a new screen, "is filled with pictures from Miami, Paris, Aspen, all locations where Wesley has supposedly been on business this past year." Giulietta stared at the screen, at the pictures of this girl posing in hotels. Not her hotels, she noted with a bitter flicker of irony, holding champagne, wearing jewelry. "He's been lying," Giulietta stated. It wasn't a question. "For at least 6 months, it seems," Nina said. "And it's worse." "Worse? Worse than bringing his mistress into my hotel, into my suite, and paying for it with my money?" Nina swiped again, bringing up the bank statements. "He's been embezzling, Giulietta. I can't be sure of the total amount without a full audit, but from a quick look at the household and discretionary accounts, it's over $4 million. He's been transferring it to a private account in the Cayman Islands." The air left Giulietta's lungs. This was the true betrayal. The affair was a deep, personal wound, a humiliation. The theft was a declaration of war. Wesley wasn't just a bored husband. He was a common criminal, a fool who had been robbing her blind while living off her name. The high-risk fund he was supposedly managing for clients was likely a sham. It was just him, gambling with her money and losing. The transfers were to cover his losses. The sadness that had been a dull ache in her chest vanished, replaced by a glacial, purifying rage. The same focus she'd used to destroy the investors hours earlier now lasered in on her husband. "He's not just an adulterer," Giulietta said, her voice a whisper. "He's a thief." "What do you want to do?" Nina asked. "I can call Martin Howell. I can have him and his guest thrown out of the hotel within the minute. I can have his corporate cards frozen." Giulietta held up a hand. No, not yet. A scene is messy. It makes the brand look weak. It makes me look like a hysterical wife. I am not a hysterical wife." She stood up and walked to the window, looking out over the park lights. She was thinking, not as a wife, as a CEO. He's arrogant, Julieta said, thinking aloud. He's stupid. He's gotten so comfortable living in my shadow that he thinks he's invisible. He thinks I'm just the money. He doesn't remember who I am. He doesn't remember who built the company he's stealing from. She turned back to Nina, her eyes bright and cold. He didn't just come to the hotel for a tryst, Nina. He came because he's a fool. He came to brag, to show that woman his power. My power. Julieta, what are you going to do? I am going to let him continue to be a fool, Julieta said. For now, he is a guest. A very, very important guest. He is to be given exactly what he asks for. Nina looked confused. I don't understand. He's in my world now. He's in my building. He thinks he's the king, but he's just a rat in a cage he doesn't see. He's to be treated perfectly. But I want to know everything. I want a private security detail, plain-clothed, assigned to his floor. I want a log of every room service call, every bottle of champagne, every meal. I want to know when he leaves, where he goes. A full surveillance, Nina clarified. A guest service profile, Julieta corrected, using the corporate term. He is a high-priority guest, and we are going to anticipate his every need. And what about you? Your flight home? Julieta's smile was thin and terrifying. Change it. I'm not going home. I'm going to New York. Tonight. Book me a suite at the Carlyle. I don't want to be in my own property. Not yet. And the legal team? Get Ms. Albright on the phone. Have her meet me at the Carlyle tomorrow at 9 a.m. with a forensic accounting team. I want to know where every single dollar went. And I want her to draft the divorce papers. Irreconcilable differences and gross financial misconduct. And the criminal charges? Nina asked quietly. Julieta paused. Draft those too. I'll decide whether to file them later. Right now, I need to see the cage I'm building. She picked up her phone and saw the missed call from Wesley. And then she saw the text message he'd attempted to send. Message failed. Her phone had been off during the dinner. I'm not happy. I think I want a divorce. A small, sharp laugh, like breaking glass, escaped her. The arrogance, she whispered. He's going to divorce me. She toggled her phone's settings, marking his number to go straight to voicemail. She wouldn't be hearing from him. Nina, Julieta said, walking to her bedroom to pack. Call Martin Howell back. Tell him Mr. Ford is to enjoy his stay. But I want his room key to accidentally demagnetize. I want it to happen at least twice a day. I want him to have to come down to the front desk from the 54th floor and ask for a new one. Nina blinked, then a slow, appreciative smile spread across her face. Yes, Julieta. And the dinner reservation he made at Le Ciel tonight. Yes, lose it. Wesley woke up the next morning with a pounding headache and a dry mouth. The sunlight streaming into the massive suite was offensively bright. He looked over. Bethany was still fast asleep, splayed across the fret linens. He felt a pang of, not guilt, precisely, more like inconvenience. He had to deal with Julieta. He checked his phone. No reply. He grumbled, assuming she was ignoring him. It was just like her. He'd drop a bomb like divorce, and she'd probably reply with a question about the quarterly taxes. But first coffee. He padded to the high-tech espresso machine built into the suite's custom bar. He pressed the on button. Nothing. He pressed it again. The machine remained dark. Damn it, he muttered. He jiggled the plug. Still nothing. Fine. He'd call room service. He picked up the sleek, touch-screen phone on the desk. The screen was blank. Dead. Unbelievable, he seethed, his irritation growing. You pay $20,000 a night for a suite and the power is out. But the lamps were on. The TV worked. It was just the phone and the coffee machine. He huffed and located his room key. I'll be right back, he said to the sleeping form of Bethany. Going to get coffee. He walked to the elevator, swiped his key. The light flashed red. Access denied. He tried again. Red. He swiped it fast, then slow. Red. 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 A curse exploded from his lips. He was locked out of his own floor. He was forced to take the service elevator, located down a hallway, which let him out in the staff corridor. He stalked through the lobby to the front desk, his hair a mess, wearing only his silk pajama bottoms and a robe. Sarah, the concierge from yesterday, was at the desk. She looked up, her face a mask of polite concern. Mr. Ford? Is everything all right? No, nothing is all right, he snapped. My key doesn't work, and the phone and coffee machine in 5I401 are broken. Send an engineer up immediately. My deepest apologies, sir, Sarah said, her voice dripping with practiced sincerity. Sometimes the keycards demagnetize if they're too close to a mobile phone. I'll issue you a new one at once. She typed for a moment, handed him 2 new keys. And I will notify engineering about the appliances. We'll send someone right up. Wesley snatched the keys and stalked back to the elevator, feeling humiliated. He passed Mr. Howell, who nodded politely. Good morning, Mr. Ford. I trust you slept well? Wesley just grunted and stabbed the elevator button. When he got back, Bethany was awake and furious. Where were you? I'm starving, and this coffee machine doesn't work. I know, he said. I had to go down and get new keys. It's a whole thing. They're sending someone up. Well, I want to go shopping, she declared. You promised me 5th Avenue. And then I want to go to that restaurant tonight. The one with the stars. Le Ciel. Yes, yes, Wesley said, desperate to placate her. I made the reservation. 8 o'clock. Prime table. An hour later, an engineer, a polite man who looked baffled, showed up. He checked the coffee machine. Sir, the plug was pulled from the wall, just slightly. See? He pushed it in. The machine whirred to life. Wesley stared. He knew he'd checked that. And the phone, sir? It appears to have been unplugged from its data port. The engineer crawled under the desk, fiddled for a second, and the screen lit up. All set, sir. Very sorry for the inconvenience. Wesley felt a strange, paranoid chill. Had Bethany done this? No, he shook it off. Just bad luck. The rest of the day was an exercise in frustration. Their shopping trip on 5th Avenue was a disaster. At the Chanel boutique, the Founders Circle, Amex, the one Wesley used for all his discreet purchases, was declined. Declined. He'd never seen that word before. He blushed, stammering to the sales associate. Run it again. It must be your machine. She ran it again. I'm sorry, sir. Declined. Bethany's face was thunderous. Wesley, what is going on? It's nothing, he hissed. It's a fraud alert, probably. I'm in a different city. I'll call the bank. He quickly used his own personal card, the one linked to his stolen funds. The purchase went through, but it made his stomach clench. That was his money, not Julietta's. He stepped aside and called the Amex number. He was put on hold for 20 minutes. Finally, a crisp voice told him, I'm sorry, Mr. Ford, but we show this card was reported compromised by the primary account holder. It has been locked, and a new card is being issued. We cannot unlock it over the phone. Julieta. She had locked the card. Why? Did she get his text? Was this her petty, passive-aggressive revenge? Fine, he muttered. Fine. He was rattled. He needed the night to go well. He needed to impress Bethany. That evening, they dressed for dinner. Bethany in a backless, glittering silver dress, Wesley in his best Tom Ford suit. They arrived at Le Ciel, the hotel's 3-Michelin-star restaurant, at 8 p.m. on the dot. The maitre d', a tall, imposing man named Jean-Pierre, looked at the reservation book. He frowned. "Monsieur Ford, is it?" "Yes," Wesley said, annoyed. "Ford. Table for 2. 8 p.m. Jean-Pierre scrolled through his tablet. "I am deeply sorry, sir. I do not seem to have a reservation under that name." "What? That's impossible. I made it myself. From the suite. Perhaps it was for tomorrow night." "It was for tonight," Wesley seethed, his voice rising. Several diners looked over. "Sir, if you would lower your voice. We are fully booked, as you can imagine. I have nothing." "This is an outrage." Wesley slammed his hand on the lectern. "I am a guest in the presidential suite. I am Wesley Ford. Don't you know who I am?" From the back, Mr. Howell materialized, his face the picture of deep concern. "Mr. Ford, Jean-Pierre, is there a problem?" This idiot," Wesley sputtered, "says he lost my reservation." "1,000 apologies, Mr. Ford," Howell said, shooting a disappointed look at the maitre d'. "This is an unacceptable oversight. Jean-Pierre, we must accommodate Mr. Ford." "But, Monsieur Howell, there is nothing." "Then we will make something," Howell said firmly. He turned to Wesley with a placating smile. "Sir, it is not the window table you doubtless requested, but we have one table. We can set it for you immediately. Please, accept a glass of champagne on the house for this terrible error." Wesley, slightly mollified, nodded curtly. "Fine." They were led past the main dining room, with its sweeping views and plush velvet booths, past the secondary, quieter room, and into a small alcove. It was, technically, still the restaurant, but it was also directly adjacent to the main swinging door of the kitchen. They were seated at a small, wobbly table. The music of the restaurant was drowned out by the clatter of pans, the muffled shouts of chefs, and the swoosh-thwack of the kitchen door opening and closing every 30 seconds. Bethany looked horrified. "Wesley, it's temporary," he hissed. "They'll move us." But they were not moved. The complimentary champagne arrived. It was not Dom. It tasted like cheap Prosecco. Their waiter was slow, flustered, and kept apologizing. Their food took over an hour. "This," Bethany said, pushing her lobster bisque away, "is a joke. You said you owned this place. You can't even get a decent table." I am practically the owner," Wesley insisted, his face slick with sweat. "Howell knows me. This is just a series of mistakes." "They look like mistakes to you?" Bethany sneered. "It looks like we're the mistakes. They're treating us like garbage. I'm humiliated." She stood up, throwing her napkin on the table. "I'm going back to the room. Us, it's not working. You're not the man you said you were, Wesley." She stormed out, leaving him alone at the worst table in New York's best restaurant. He sat there, fuming, as the kitchen door swoosh-thwacked again. This was Giulietta's doing. It had to be. She was locking his cards, cancelling his reservations. She was trying to humiliate him. Fine. 2 could play at that game. He was done with this. He would go to her lawyer. He'd demand his half. He stormed out of the restaurant, not even signing the bill. When he got to the 54th floor, he swiped his key. Red. Access denied. He swiped again. Red. She had done it again. He was locked out. He roared in frustration, slamming his fist against the wall. He had to go all the way back down to the lobby, sweaty and furious, to get another key. Across the street, in a dark penthouse suite at the Carlisle Hotel, Julietta Ford sat with Miss Albright, her lawyer. Nina was with them, holding a phone to her ear. "Mr. Howell confirms, ma'am," Nina reported, a small smile playing on her lips. "Ms. Reed has returned to the suite. Mr. Ford is currently at the front desk, requesting another key. His voice," she added, "was described as apoplectic." "Good," Julietta said, taking a sip of water. "Let him simmer." "The forensic team has a preliminary number," Miss Albright, a severe woman with grey hair, said, pushing a file across the table. "He wasn't just covering gambling losses. He was funding Ms. Reed's influencer business. He also purchased in cash a condo in Miami, in her name." Julietta's face darkened. "He bought her a home with my money. It's wire fraud, plain and simple, Julietta. On top of the embezzlement. We have him. The question is, how do you want to proceed?" Julietta looked at the file, at the pictures of the Miami condo. She looked at the bank transfers. "He's not just a fool," she said. "He's a parasite. And you don't bargain with a parasite. You exterminate it. Nina, call him." "Call Wesley?" Nina asked, surprised. "Yes. Use your phone. Tell him I'm devastated. I got his text. Tell him I'm flying back, and I want to save our marriage. Tell him I'm willing to renegotiate our prenup to make him happy." Albright and Nina stared at her. "Julietta, are you—" "He's desperate," Julietta cut in, her voice like steel. "He's been humiliated. His money is cut off. He's terrified I'm going to ruin him. But his ego will believe I still want him. He'll believe I'm the weak, forgiving wife. Tell him I'm hosting a private dinner. Tomorrow night, just the two of us, in the founder's room at the New York flagship. To reconcile." "A trap," Albright said, a look of profound respect in her eyes. "A performance review," Julietta replied. "Now, make the call." Wesley finally made it back into the suite, his rage a palpable force. The door slammed shut behind him, rattling a priceless vase on a nearby pedestal. "Bethany!" he roared. The suite was quiet. He stalked through the living room into the master bedroom. She wasn't there. Her suitcases, the Louis Vuittons he had bought her, were gone. On the bed, in the center of the vast, empty mattress, was a single, diamond-encrusted earring, one of a pair he'd bought her from Boudoir Gems. Next to it was a note, scrawled on Aurelia Grand stationery. "You're a fraud, Wesley. I'm not going down with you. Don't call me." He sank onto the bed, the fight draining out of him, replaced by a cold, hollow dread. She was gone. The card was locked. Julietta was somewhere, plotting against him. He was alone in this monument to his wife's success, and he had never felt so small. His grand fantasy of a new life, a life where he was the man in charge, had evaporated in 24 hours. All that was left was the reality. He was a 50-year-old man who had stolen millions from his wife, and he had just been caught. He saw his life flashing before his eyes, the lawsuits, the press, the Page 6 headlines, Hotel Queen's husband in cheating and embezzlement scandal. He would be ruined. He would be broke. He might even go to... No, he couldn't even think it. He had to fix this. He had to beg. He had to grovel. He scrambled for his phone to call Julietta, to preemptively apologize, to invent a story, a breakdown, a midlife crisis, anything. When the phone buzzed in his hand, the caller ID was Nina Romano, Julietta's attack dog. His blood turned to ice. This was it. The call from the lawyers. He answered, his hand shaking. "Hello?" "Wesley." Nina's voice was cold, professional. "Julietta is aware of your text message." "Nina, listen, she is deeply, deeply distressed. Wesley, Nina said, her voice suddenly softening. The shift in tone was so unexpected, it threw him off completely. She is? He stammered. She's cutting her trip short. She's flying back tonight. Wesley, she loves you. She doesn't want this to be the end. She's distraught. She blames herself, her work, her travel. Wesley blinked. He was stunned. Distraught? Blaming herself? He had been prepared for rage, for lawyers, for threats. He was not prepared for guilt. A slow, insidious flicker of hope and arrogance reignited in his chest. Of course, she was powerful, yes, but she was still a woman. She was lonely. She needed him. He'd just pushed her too far. This was leverage. She does? He said, his voice instantly changing from terrified to concerned husband. Nina, I've been so unhappy. I've been so lonely. I did something stupid, but it was a cry for help. She knows, Nina said, her voice dripping with false sympathy that over the phone Wesley mistook for the real thing. She knows she's been distant. She wants to make it right. She's willing to discuss everything, even the prenuptial agreement. Wesley sat bolt upright. The prenup, the ironclad, you leave with nothing but the clothes on your back document he'd been forced to sign. She is? She wants to reinvest in the marriage, she said. She wants to make you a full partner in everything. This was it. This was the payday. His gamble. It had worked. She was scared of losing him. That idiot Bethany had left just when things were about to get good. Where is she? I'll meet her at the house, he said eagerly. No, she's embarrassed. She wants this to be private, away from the staff at home. She's landing late tomorrow. She wants to meet you for a private dinner. Tomorrow night, 8 p.m. The Founder's Room at the New York Hotel. The Founder's Room? He said, impressed. That was the ultra-private dining room on the top floor, reserved for Julieta and the board. Just the two of you, Nina said. To talk. To save your marriage, Wesley. She's asking you to be there. She's saying she's sorry. Yes, Wesley said, his voice full. Yes, of course. Tell her I'm sorry too. Tell her I love her. I'll be there. 8 p.m. She'll see you then, Wesley, Nina said, and hung up. Wesley leaped from the bed. He was laughing. He had done it. He had won. She was caving. The hotel key fiascos, the dinner reservation, the credit card. That was just her initial, petty lashing out. But when it came to the crunch, she couldn't lose him. He had her. He suddenly felt starved. He picked up the now working phone and dialed room service. This is Wesley Ford in 5401. I want a 32-ounce porterhouse steak, medium rare, a bottle of the Aero 5 Petrus, and a slice of your best chocolate cake. Charge it to the room. He had a long, luxurious bath. He slept the sleep of the righteous, or at least the victorious. He spent the next day in the suite, ordering in, enjoying the view, magnanimously forgiving the staff for their errors the day before. He was, once again, the king. He preened, practiced his concerned but firm speech. He'd admit to being lonely. He'd admit to a mistake. He wouldn't mention Bethany by name. But he'd hold firm. He needed to be a full partner. The prenup had to go. That evening he dressed with meticulous care. He chose a dark, conservative Xenia suit, a serious suit. He wore the Patek Philippe watch she had bought him for their 10th anniversary. He was ready. At 7:55 p.m., he rode the private elevator up to the 60th floor, the executive level. He walked down the hushed, art-filled corridor to the Founder's Room. The double doors were imposing, carved from dark mahogany. He pushed them open. The room was not what he expected. It wasn't set for a romantic dinner. The long, 40-foot boardroom table was gone. The room was dark, almost empty, except for a single, small table in the very center, illuminated by a harsh spotlight from above. Giulietta was sitting at the table. She was not in a dinner dress. She was wearing a crimson-red power suit, her shoulders sharp, her hair pulled back so tightly it stretched the skin at her temples. She looked like a queen, a hanging judge. She was not alone. In the shadows, standing against the far wall, were two large, imposing security guards, and at a small desk in the corner sat a woman he didn't recognize, a severe-looking woman with grey hair and a laptop. Miss Albright. "Wesley," Giulietta said, and her voice was not the voice of a distraught wife. It was the voice she used in boardrooms, the voice that ended careers. "Hello, darling," she said, her voice echoing slightly in the vast, empty room. "Please, sit down. We have so much to reconcile." Wesley's triumphant smile faltered, freezing on his face. This was not a reconciliation. This was an ambush. "Giulietta, what is this?" he stammered, his eyes darting to the guards, then to the lawyer in the corner. "Where's the dinner? I thought we were going to talk." "Oh, we are," Giulietta said, her voice dangerously pleasant. "We are going to talk about so many things. Please, Wesley, sit." She gestured to the single, uncomfortable-looking chair opposite her. He sat, perching on the edge. The spotlight was hot, making him feel like he was under interrogation. "You look nervous, Wesley," Giulietta said. "There's no need. This is just a performance review. After all, you've been working for me for 15 years. I thought it was time we assessed your value." "Giulietta, stop this. This is cruel. I came here. I know I made a mistake. I was lonely. You're never here. I was a fool." "A fool," she agreed, nodding slowly. "That is the first true thing you've said. But your mistake wasn't the affair, Wesley. Your mistake was thinking I was stupid." She slid a thin file across the table. "Open it." His hands trembled. He opened the folder. It was a photograph, a high-resolution, crystal-clear still from the hotel security camera. Him, Bethany, his arm around her, his smug expression. "Bethany Reed," Giulietta said, as if reciting a resume. "Age 26, a failed actress turned influencer. You met her at the bar at the Standard, 6 months and 2 weeks ago. You've spent, let's see." She glanced at the lawyer, who read from her screen. $472,000, Ms. Albright said, on gifts, travel and sponsorships for her brand. Wesley's blood ran cold. You spied on me," he whispered. "You flaunted her," Giulietta corrected, her voice rising for the first time. "In my lobby, in my suite. You used my name, my account. That's not spying, Wesley. That's inventory." She pushed a second, much thicker file toward him. This is the real problem." He opened it. It was bank statements, wire transfers, account numbers, the Cayman Islands account, the Miami condo deed, in Bethany Reed's name. $4.2 million. Giulietta enunciated every syllable. "You didn't just make a mistake, Wesley. You stole from me, from this company, from the people who work for me. You took money that was earmarked for employee pensions and year-end bonuses, and you bought your whore a condominium." "No," he cried, standing up. It was investments, high risk, the market. It went bad. I was trying to make my own money, so I could be your equal." The two guards tensed, but Giulietta held up a hand. "Sit down." He fell back into the chair. "You have never been my equal," she said, her voice low and filled with a contempt that seared him. "You were my husband. I loved you. I trusted you. And you were a parasite, a common, pathetic thief." "Giulietta, please," he begged, the tears now real. I can pay it back. We can work this out. Don't do this. I'll go. I'll sign anything. Just don't tell anyone. The press. It would ruin us. It would ruin the brand." He tried to find her last weak spot. The brand. Giulietta actually laughed, a cold, sharp, mirthless sound. "The brand? You're worried about the brand? You brought your mistress to the flagship. You were declined at Chanel. You made a scene at Le Ciel. You are a liability, Wesley. The brand will be stronger when I cut you out of it." She stood up, walking around the table to stand over him. "You came here tonight thinking I was going to offer you more," she said, disgusted. "You thought I was the weak, forgiving wife. You thought you'd won." She snapped her fingers. Mr. Howell stepped out of the shadows from a side door. He was holding a small, silver tray. "You've been complaining about your stay, Mr. Ford," Giulietta said. "The service, the reservations, the keycards. I believe you made a scene. At Aurelia Grand, we take guest complaints very, very seriously." She took a stack of papers from Miss Albright. "These," she said, "are the divorce papers. You get nothing. The prenup is ironclad. In fact, due to the financial misconduct clause, you owe me." She took another document. "This is a restraining order. You will not come within 500 feet of me, my home, or any of my properties. Ever again." She took a third file. "And this. This is the criminal complaint we are filing with the district attorney's office tomorrow morning. Wire fraud, embezzlement, grand larceny. Ms. Albright is a very good lawyer. You'll be hearing from her. And from the NYPD. Wesley was white, hyperventilating. "Giulietta, no, prison. You wouldn't. I'm your husband." "You were my husband," she corrected. "Now you're just a thief. And this," she nodded to Mr. Howell. He stepped forward. On the tray was a single, long piece of paper, a receipt. "This is your bill," Giulietta said, "for the presidential suite. 5 nights, at the full, non-discounted rack rate, plus room service, the Dom Perignon, the oysters, the petrou, the steak, plus the damages for the vase you knocked over, plus the premium for checking in under false pretenses." Wesley looked at the total. It was over $150,000. My cards are locked," he stammered. I can't pay this." "I know," Giulietta said, "which is why we will be seizing your assets. The few you had before me, anyway. Your watches, your car, that ridiculous fund you operate. Consider this, your final performance review. You're fired. From the board, from the family, from my life." She turned to the guards. "Gentlemen, Mr. Ford is no longer a guest. He is, in fact, banned for life from all Aurelia Grand properties. Please escort him from the premises." "Giulietta, no, please!" Wesley screamed, grabbing for her. The guards were on him in an instant, pulling his arms behind his back. "You can't do this. I'll tell the press everything. I'll ruin you," he shrieked, his face red. Giulietta leaned in close, her face inches from his, and whispered, "Go ahead. Tell them. Tell them you're a cheater and a thief. Tell them you got caught by your wife. Tell them you're facing 10 to 15 in Sing Sing. Who do you think they'll believe, Wesley? The fool on the pavement, or the queen in the castle?" She turned and walked to the door. "Mr. Howell," she said, not looking back, "please have housekeeping deep clean suite 5401. I want it fumigated." "Yes, Mrs. Ford," Howell said, his voice filled with profound relief. Wesley was dragged, screaming and pleading, out of the room, down the service elevator, and marched through the staff-only exit into the back alley. The guards threw his custom-made suit onto the grimy pavement after him. The alley door slammed shut. Wesley Ford stood there, in the cold, misty New York night, smelling of garbage. His phone was dead. His wallet was empty. He had, quite literally, nothing but the clothes on his back. And he knew, with a certainty that chilled him to his soul, that his life was over. Julieta stood in the empty founder's room, feeling hollow but light. The cancer she'd been ignoring was finally cut out. Her legal team confirmed the next steps. Wesley would be arrested by midday. As for Bethany, Julieta was unmoved. The condo, purchased with stolen funds, was a company asset. Miss Albright's team would repossess it, and Miss Reed would be evicted. The press, guided by Nina, framed the story perfectly. It wasn't a tale of a wronged wife. It was a story of a brilliant CEO uncovering corporate fraud. Wesley was the fool, and Julieta was praised for her decisive action. 6 months later, Julieta stood on a balcony in Dubai, overlooking the construction of her newest, most ambitious hotel. Her vision was clearer, focused on building for herself. She had the New York suite gutted, erasing the past and remaking it in her own clean, modern image. The divorce was finalized. Wesley, facing irrefutable evidence, pled guilty and was sentenced to 7 years in federal prison. Julieta didn't attend the sentencing. She was, as always, working. An architect approached her on the balcony. "Mrs. Ford, the foundation is set. We're ready to build." Julieta Ford turned, a small, genuine smile on her face. "Good. Let's get to work." And that's the story of how Wesley Ford learned the hard way that you should never, ever try to con the person who signs your checks. He thought he was playing a game of chess, but he was just a pawn on his wife's board. He flew too close to the sun, and Julieta didn't just let him fall. She melted his wings, repossessed the wax, and then billed him for the fire. What did you think of Julieta's revenge? Was it too cold, or was it the perfect karmic justice for Wesley's betrayal and theft? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. What would you have done if you were in her shoes? If you loved this story of drama and consequences, please don't forget to hit that like button. Share it with a friend who loves a good revenge story, and most importantly, subscribe to the channel so you never miss a new video. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you in the next story.